It's a not very promising day in the middle of August 2008, and I'm on my way to London for a very unusual flight indeed. Soon we're heading for the coast. Very quickly we're on Brunel's sea wall, and as we look back across the sea we'll get a glimpse of the old red sandstone of Devon, which gave its name to the Devonian geological era some 400 million years ago. But let's take another look at the same scene 160 years ago. It was Brunel's great experiment with an atmospheric railway using vacuum and air pressure in a pipe between the tracks. Unfortunately, the idea didn't work, even though it enabled the system to run with no locomotive, only a brakeman with control over the air piston. The materials were just not available in his day. The leather and tallow were prone to freeze, and it even attracted rats. Well, here we can see Brunel's famous 7-foot broad gauge with the vacuum pipe down the middle of it, reconstructed. Very soon we're skimming along the ex-estuary, heading away from the sea towards Exeter. This is a landscape much loved of bird watchers. Very soon we're passing the tranquil grounds of the Earl and Countess of Devon's Deer Park, formerly a vast hunting forest. His ancestors came over with the Conqueror, and to this day the eldest son generally serves in the armed forces. However, Britain's aristocrats are not always rich in cash, though they're rich in land. So these days the Earl has to make the most of renting out the castle for weddings and conferences. A few miles further on and we're streaking along the M5 motorway. It always gives me a sense of childish satisfaction to overtake the cars in a train. Arriving in London the following day, we set off for the field where the airship is to take off. But the weather's closing in all the time. Look at that cloud base, it doesn't look promising. Eventually, however, we do arrive, and the airship is moored. Well, at least we can spend the day looking around. That's the helium gas for topping up. And now we take a look at the imposing bulk of this enormous ship. Of course, it's nothing like the size of the Zeppelins of the 1930s, but it's several feet longer than a modern Boeing 747. It normally docks with a 30-ton mast truck seen here. Damyns Hall is a private flying club, and with nothing to do, it's one of those moments where everybody starts photographing everybody else, taking photographs. Unfortunately, the airship's emblazoned with the sales material of a Belgian beer company. It does rather ruin the lines, I think. And there's the mooring mast. Taking in the length of the hull, we get a glimpse of the really quite small engines that are quite sufficient to drive this machine at anything up to 60 miles an hour. The next day the weather's looking better. We retrace our steps, going under the Thames in the new Dartford Tunnel. It's not many miles after this, just on the very rural edge of London, and a few minutes later we catch our first glimpse of the beast in the air. Arriving just ahead of it at Damyns Hall Airfield, we get a chance to look at the tiny little stunt planes, and then a few minutes later the airship hoves into view. It's certainly a very strange sight as it hangs there in a leisurely manner. At very low speed the captain is manoeuvring the ship. This is a difference with the Zeppelins of the 30s. This machine has vectored thrust propellers and a strange arrangement at the back with a small side thruster. It can in fact manoeuvre when it's almost stationary, something the old Zeppelins couldn't do because as soon as they came to a near halt they of course had no airflow over their control surfaces. We're beginning to hear the engines now, but they're surprisingly quiet. It's evident that they never really have to run very fast. We can see now that the engines have tilted upwards and the side thruster is very much in evidence. The ship is hanging there almost stationary. It's still an astonishing sight, small though it is compared with the airships of the past. It seems to hang there like some fish, quite happy in its medium. The word airship is something of a misnomer. It would be more accurate to describe it as a fish or even a submarine. It doesn't fly on the medium, it flies through it, part of the air.
They know.
It's moving out no more than 3 or 4 miles an hour, and then it comes into land, gently bringing its tail wheel down. One advantage of this modern Zeppelin is that it's trimmed to be slightly heavier than air. That means the engines have only got to apply a small amount of thrust and off it goes. Also, it doesn't have to be lassoed down from the sky, as earlier machines did. It will gently come to the ground. Well, we've been waiting and now here we are, sitting in the airship, looking out at the massive enigmatic shadow that it casts across the airfield. Very soon the engines tilt upwards and we're off. There's really no sensation of takeoff, no surge of power as you'd find with a jet aircraft. The droning just increases a little and you look down and suddenly the ground is dropping away. The rate of climb is surprisingly fast. Very soon we reach 1,000 feet. This is another thing the ship has in common with earlier Zeppelins. It doesn't fly very high. It's been found by long experience that 300 metres, 1,000 feet or so, is absolutely ideal to take in the sight of the ground. It's when the ground seems most attractive. You can spy on people's back gardens, you can see cars moving, you can look at individual gardens. But very soon, the captain talks to us.
When we are at 300 feet, you can unfasten your seatbelt, you can walk around. But due to the thermal activity, the ship may move a little bit. So if it rolls or if the nose goes up or down, don't get nervous, it's normal. If you walk around and the ship is moving and if you don't feel comfortable, hold on to the seat or to the rail up here. Please don't touch the windows, you know, get all the fingerprints on. Pictures. Regarding pictures, we got the window open at the aft door and the window open here at the front door. So you can use the windows as well for your air shot, so you don't have the plastic windows in front of your camera. But when you come close to the window, hello, be aware that we have an airflow out here. So hold on tight to your camera and to your glasses.
Very soon we're just getting to the edge of London. There's still many open fields, but there's also big housing estates. This is the very far east of London and we can see the Thames as it trickles out to sea in its slow, wide estuary. There's something graceful about the motion of the ship. It gently rolls on the thermals. The inside isn't luxurious, but it's considerably more comfortable than a modern charter jet. There's plenty of room, and one is encouraged to get up and walk about. It's a little bit like a country bus in some ways, albeit a rather luxurious one. We can see the 2 drivers at the front. Now we see the Thames as it winds its way out of London eastwards towards the North Sea. We notice below us the signs of industry on the Thames. This eastern end of the Thames has concentrated more and more industry since the historic London docks began to close some 30 years ago. Again, we're travelling over mixed countryside and housing. London can seem a very grimy and busy place when you're standing there in it or trying to drive through it, but seen from the air, one is struck by what a green city it is. There are open spaces everywhere. One such open space is Blackheath. It was originally a plague pit, and nobody wanted to build there, so in a few hundred years it had reverted to being a public green open space. We can see an aircraft coming down now. It's headed for the new Docklands Airport. And there on a curve in the Thames we get a glimpse of the Millennium Dome, which was built for the Millennium in 2000 as a major exhibition and has attracted nothing but criticism ever since. How typically British. We also get a glimpse of the Thames Barrier, built some years ago in anticipation of rising sea levels and floods. And here is some of the most expensive and valuable real estate in the world. Canary Wharf, former Docklands, which is now London's second financial centre. Again, the notorious Millennium Dome, and just a brief glimpse of a building affectionately dubbed the Gherkin. And now here we can see that enigmatic shadow once again. It's an ironic fact that this route from the North Sea and to the east of London was exactly the path followed by the Zeppelins in the 1914-18 war. They were the first strategic bombers, and that shadow would have cast dread into the hearts of Londoners. Once again the Thames Barrier, and another aircraft taking off from London City Airport in the Docklands. We're moving faster now. We've crossed the Thames again, and our half-hour flight is going to be over very soon. The captain's briefing us on landing.
We have one right next to you, but we just can do it when we are sure that you're all close together. So, we hope you enjoyed the flight. If you did not, please recommend us to the family, friends,
The aerodrome comes in sight and the ship begins to manoeuvre. We can see the mooring truck far below us. We slow down and then the machine begins to almost pirouette gracefully. It's astonishingly manoeuvrable. One can see how slowly the engines turn. 30 frames a second freezes them. Again, that black shadow dwarfs everything below it. The light aircraft look like toys. And very soon we're nearing the ground. It's a very, very gentle landing. But the ship is soon off again, and here we are, having been shepherded off, waving goodbye to the next group of passengers. Well, the weather kept its promise. It's been a perfect blue sky day with fluffy white clouds in the sky. Ideal for a cruise in a Zeppelin. Slowly it recedes in the distance, and after a few hundred yards we can't even hear the engines any longer. Now it's just a tiny dot, and we've got our memories of a memorable flight.